was a setup. I gotta convince somebody in Junior Mafia who has the power to move big. But now, D-Rock is in the hands of Damien himself. That's Diddy. For that whole day.
What I did was I put in the ironic satire of as if Biggie was Jesus.
Gotcha.
You understand? And D-Rock was Judas. Puffy was the devil. And Lil C's and Junior Mafia was the disciples.
But as we were starting to do a lot of shows, it's to the point where Big would be like, yo, you know what? I became a part of the
business in LA at that time. We all knew that. Why would Puff rent studio time? Come on, man, look. You gotta look at what people do, man.
It was a setup. I got to convince somebody in Junior Mafia who has the power to move big, but now D-Rock is in the hands of Damien himself. That's did for that whole day. But what I did was I put in the ironic satire of as if Biggie was Jesus, got you, you understand, and DCK was Judas, M. Puffy was the devil, and Louise and Junior Mafia was the disciples, as we were starting to do a lot of shows. To the point where Big would be like, yo, you know what, I became a part of the show. What if the people you trusted, most the ones you'd ride or die for, turned out to be the same ones plotting your downfall? That's the chilling question hanging over the legacy of Biggie Smalls, a hip-hop icon whose untimely death is still shrouded in controversy. He had no business in law at that time. We all knew that. Why would Puff rent studio time? Come on, man, look, you got to look at what people do, man. Imagine your best friend, someone you've shared dreams, struggles, and triumphs with, being accused of playing a role in the conspiracy that ended your life. Sounds like the stuff of nightmares, right? Well, that's the story some believe unfolded with Biggie and his longtime friend DCK, with whispers of betrayal allegedly tied to none other than Diddy. Over the years, Diddy's former bodyguard Gone Deal has added fuel to this fiery speculation, dropping bombshell claims that Drock was bribed by Diddy to betray Biggie. But what I did was I put in the ironic satire of as if Biggie was Jesus, got you, you understand, and DCK was Judas, and Puffy was the devil, and Luis and Junior Mafia was the disciples. And it doesn't sto there. Gene also pointed fingers at other close associates like Lil Ce for allegedly hiding the truth about what went down that fateful night. Wild claims, sure, but the dots people have tried to connect make it all seem eerily plausible. After Biggie's death, Drock and Diddy's relationship took center stage, raising eyebrows across the industry. Biggie and Notorious Lil' Kim DCK blog. First of all, I want to just thank everybody for making Notorious such a successful movie. That's like 24 million first 4-day weekend. If you ain't see it, go see it. Oh, it's up to 31 million, right? 31 million right now. Yo, we just want to say thank you, man. Thank you. See this brother behind me. Clips and photos began circulating showing Drock consistently by Diddy's side, making it hard to ignore the whispers of a deeper, darker connection. To top it all off, Drock launched a clothing brand called the Invisible Bully. Swag supposedly dedicated to Biggie, but the twist, did he actively help promote it? Man, D-Rock, he got this clothing line. Tell him about it. Invisible is just pure inspiration, man, you know what I mean, pure inspiration. Rock with this right now. It's for the underdog, you know, everybody's invisible. You can achieve the possible, you know, we got different things going on. This is definitely, I appreciate all the love for everybody. That rep B, you know, he got this one's the prey. One for many. This felt like a slap in the face, a bizarre twist in a saga already dripping with suspicion and heartbreak. Let's not forget Biggie and Drock weren't just friends, they were inseparable, performing together and navigating the gritty streets of Brooklyn as a unit. He had that on since he got it. I got it, and I got it a while ago. That's what makes the rumors of Rock's involvement so devastating. It shook the industry and left fans grappling with what could be the ultimate betrayal. So what's Rock's own story? Let's dive right in. Damon Drock Butler is one of those names that echoes through hip-hop lore, not just as a friend or a figure in the background, but as someone who played a deeply personal and pivotal role in the life and legacy of the notorious Big, aka Christopher Wallace. You can't really talk about Biggie's story without weaving DCK into the narrative, because their bond was more than just a friendship, it was a brotherhood that started in the streets of Brooklyn, grew through shared struggles and ambitions, and eventually played out on the grand stage of hip-hop history. These two weren't just collaborators under Junior Mafia or Bad Boy Records, they were inseparable, sharing moments that range from mundane daily life to the chaotic rise of stardom. This deep connection is something DCK immortalized through hours of raw behind-the-scenes footage capturing Biggie as Christopher Wallace, the man behind the icon. These clips which stayed locked away for decades, offer an unfiltered look at Biggie laughing, rhyming, and just being himself, wandering through malls packed with screaming fans, spitting bars on street corners, and commanding sold-out shows. Drak held on to this footage like a private treasure, calling it his visual diary, and it wasn't until over 20 years later that he finally decided to share it with the world. This decision spurred by meeting filmmaker E.M.T. Malloy birthed Biggie, I Got a Story to Tell, a Netflix documentary that peels back the layers of Biggie's persona, to reveal the man many fans never really knew. As we were starting to do a lot of shows, to the point where Big would be like, yo, you know what, I became a part of the show. Biggie and Notorious Little Kim DCK blog. First of all, I want to just thank everybody for making Notorious such a successful movie. That's like 24 million first 4-day weekend. If you ain't see it, go see it. Up to 31 million, right? 31 million right now. Yo, we just want to say thank you, man. Thank you. See this brother behind me. It's a side of Biggie that's more Christopher Wallace than Notorious Big, as his former manager Wayne Barrow pointed out, reminding us that Biggie never saw himself as a celebrity and he never let that fame change him. But as touching as the story of their friendship and loyalty seems on the surface, there's a darker, more tangled narrative that's been whispered in corners of the hip-hop world for years, one that paints DCK not just as a loyal friend, but as a possible betrayer. Gene Deal, a former bad boy bodyguard, has been vocal about a version of events that casts a shadow over Drak's role in Biggie's life and tragic death. Deal's allegations are heavy to say the least. He's likened the situation to a biblical betrayal, calling Drak Judas, Biggie Jesus, and Diddy the devil-like figure pulling the strings. But what I did was I put in an ironic satire of as if Biggie was Jesus, got you understand, and DCK was Judas and Puffy was the devil and Loses and Junior Mafia was the disciples. It's the kind of theory that sounds almost too wild to be true, but in the murky world of hip-hop rivalries, industry politics, and the infamous East Coast-West Coast beef, nothing feels completely out of the realm of possibility. Deal claims that Biggie in his final days was trying to distance himself from Diddy, suspecting that things weren't as they seemed. He recounted moments of eerie forewarning, like a chilling phone call urging the crew to vest up on the night Biggie was off to call. Deal says was ignored by Diddy and others. I'm like, yo, Rock man, I'm getting a lot of my man called me Unique. We just talked about Unique who started that battle rap up there something and all me audio Mecca audio MHM, so that's where all the orders and everything, they know everything before we know. And he's out in California and he tells me, yo, Big Gene. I said, yo, who this? He say Unique. Vess up, phone clicked out. The narrative gets even murkier when you consider the tense atmosphere of the East Coast versus West Coast feud, a rivalry that had already claimed Tupac Shakur and loomed ominously over Biggie's camp. Deal suggests that there were deeper, more sinister layers to Biggie's death, pointing to betrayals from within and raising questions about loyalty, manipulation, and industry power plays. For those who might not be up to speed on the East Coast-West Coast feud, let's hit rewind and unpack how this volatile rivalry became a defining chapter in hip-hop history. This wasn't just about music or bragging rights, it was a clash of egos, regions, and ideologies that turned deadly. And for Biggie, caught in the eye of this storm, the betrayal, if true, would be a cruel twist in a life already marked by hardship and ambition. Let's take a trip back to one of the wildest and most intense chapters in hip-hop history, the infamous East Coast-West Coast rivalry. This wasn't just about music or who had the best beats. It became this larger-than-life cultural showdown that split the hip-hop world right down the middle. On one side you had New York, home of the gritty streetwise East Coast sound, with the Notorious Big as its crown jewel holding it down for Bad Boy Records. On the other you had Los Angeles, the heart of the West Coast sun-soaked gangster rap movement led by the magnetic and fiery Tupac Shakur, repping Death Row Records. And man, when these two collided, it was like tossing a lit match into a powder keg. It all started out as a mix of personal beefs and professional competition, but things got real ugly real fast. In '94, Tupac was shot at a New York studio, a moment he would later claim was a setup involving Biggie and his crew, though Biggie always denied it. That shooting was like the opening salvo in a war that would spill over into tracks, interviews, and straight-up confrontations. Diss songs like Tupac's infamous Hit Him Up and Biggie's subtle but sharp comebacks only poured gasoline on the fire. The media, loving the drama, played a major role in fanning the flames, framing it as this epic battle of Coasts rather than a few dudes with serious grudges, but the craziest part, this wasn't just hype, it got real people on both sides started taking the feud way too seriously, turning it into a climate of paranoia and violence. And then came the most heartbreaking twists. Tupac was gunned down in Vegas in '96, and just 6 months later on March 9, 1997, Biggie met the same tragic fate in La. Now let's zoom in on the events of that fateful night. Biggie was in Los Angeles for the Soul Train Awards, but it